Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here, once again with another video on Supergirl Season 3. So this is going to be my review for Episode 1, otherwise entitled Girl of Steel. So obviously, before we go ahead, there will be spoilers within this review. We're going to be talking all about this premiere episode, which I thought was a really solid start to the season, but obviously we'll get more in depth in a second. But the first thing I wanted to say is thanks for 150,000 subscribers. We actually hit it yesterday. My goal was to actually hit it before the DC TV shows all came back, and we hit it the day before. So I don't know if that's a sign that everything's going to be going awesomely this season, but yeah, I just want to thank everyone for that. So obviously right at the end of Season 2, like to finish off Season 2 of Supergirl, we had, Kara making a really tough decision. It was a decision she had to make, but that didn't make it any tougher, and that was, sending Mon-El, the person that she loved, away from Earth into really an unknown area. Like, Kara and Supergirl don't know where Mon-El is at this current time. He could be dead, he could be in some other universe, she has absolutely no idea, and that leaves her a bit uneasy. And that just really leads on to the beginning of Season 3. We have this much darker Supergirl, like she's much more dour. It's almost like Barry from Season 3 of The Flash. Just really down Kara or Supergirl. Just not that, very enjoyable to be around. But Season 3 actually starts off with a dream sequence of all things, where we actually see Mon-El again, and we actually get reintroduced to Allura. Now I say reintroduced because Allura, Kara's mother, has actually been recast. So I don't know what the actress's name from Season 1 and 2 was, but they've actually cast Erica Durance as Allura, who was actually Lois Lane from Smallville, so that's pretty cool. Now, one of the new characters this season is Morgan Edge. He actually played a bigger role in this episode than I thought he would, which was pretty interesting, but he's essentially a property developer. I think he does some other business work, but he's, best known as a property developer. And he's basically owning National City at the moment, making a lot of cash. And one of his goals is actually to control Catco, so he can not only control the property market in National City, but also control the media side of it as well. And, that's always going to cause some controversy between him and Lena Luthor for this season. So Lena Luthor's got her own villain in Morgan Edge to deal with. It's going to be very interesting to see how much of a role he does play this season. Like, as I said, he played much more of a role in this episode than I thought he would, because he was tied with the villain for this episode, which was Bloodsport. I think that's what his name was. I didn't really pay too much focus with it because it was just like one of those, generic episode villains, but he was tied to that villain. And so as I said, he was tied more to this episode than I thought he would, but it's going to be interesting to see how his character is, dealing with Lena Luthor this season and how that all plays out, because I think that could be a very interesting dynamic in this season that could be very interesting to watch. Now, we do get some Cat Grant in this episode, not too much, like it's literally just a bit of it, but it basically explains like how Catco is running at the moment, like why certain people are where they are. But I think in one of the trailers for this season, it did spoil, I guess, that she was the press secretary for the president, obviously, in the United States, might I say. So I think we'll get more of her in the next couple of episodes, but it was just a little thing to sort of plant in everyone's heads. Hey, she's not at Catco anymore. She's in the White House. Now, Alex and Maggie had a decent-sized role in this episode, really just continuing on from the end of last season where they got engaged, and it's really just, pushing towards that wedding thing. There is something at the end which I thought was a really nice touch, but we'll talk about it at the end of the video in regards to the wedding. But I know there is some controversy around Samver's or Alex and Maggie's relationship in this season. I haven't really looked too much into it, so I'm just going to play it by ear and see how it plays in the episodes. So if you do know about that, let me know in the comment section down below in regards to that, because I haven't looked too much into it, because Supergirl is one of those shows where I don't dive too much into like some spoilery stuff. I just like to watch the show for what it is. Now, one character which I was very unsure about going into this season was James Olsen. I still don't know what his role specifically is going to be this season, whether it is just like tied directly to Catco and stuff like that. But I think in this episode, he had a nice moment with Kara, just trying to keep Supergirl and Kara as individuals, because obviously one of the issues in this episode that, Supergirl was facing was, do I be Supergirl or do I be Kara Danvers? She was just trying to like figure out that Kara Danvers is this thing that doesn't need to exist anymore. Like Supergirl is this like beam of hope, while Kara Danvers is this sad little girl, thinking about Mon-El all the time. So it was nice that James Olsen did have that scene, but I did think it got overshadowed by a scene only like a couple of minutes later between Kara and Alex and that argument they had. I thought that definitely overshadowed the James Olsen moment, and even you could argue that the Kara and John conversation on top of that rooftop overshadowed the James Olsen conversation again. So I thought James Olsen actually had a decent part in this episode, but it got overshadowed by two moments that really followed it straight after, which I thought was a bit weird. But in regards to that Kara and John conversation, there is some setup for more in season 3 regarding John, because we know that John Jones is going to be interacting with his father. How they do that, I don't know. I think that's in actually maybe episode 3, I want to say. I'm not 100% sure, but I know it's earlier in the season. We are going to get John interacting with his father. I don't know if it's going to be like realistic or it's going to be in like visions and stuff. I don't know what they're doing, but there is some setup in that conversation between Kara and John in regards to that. Another new character that we meet in this episode is Samantha Araya, or Arias. I don't know how you would pronounce the last name, but she's more commonly been known in the like promotional material as Rain. So she is going to be the villain this season. But as you would know, in this episode, well, she was just sort of normal. And that's, I think, one of the interesting parts about the character, is that she's going to be starting off as just this normal girl, this normal woman, and, you know, normal mother and stuff like that. We do meet her daughter called Ruby. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they play her from how we meet her in this episode. Just seems like a nice lady, into the villainous Rain, the world killer from the comics. So that's going to be a very interesting thing to see play out at the Girl of Steel statue reveal, which I thought was pretty cool. I think they actually did take that design of the Girl of Steel statue almost, I think it was from some concept art from Batman v Superman. I don't know if they directly took it from that or it's just a coincidence that they look the same. But if you go look at some BVS concept art, the Superman statue dedication, there was a concept art for a statue that looked exactly like the Girl of Steel one. But at that statue reveal, obviously Samantha's daughter Ruby gets trapped, and I thought she was going to die at that point, because I think one of the things that's going to like trigger Samantha going into Rain is the death of her daughter. And ever since I knew that she was getting a daughter in this season, I thought, well, I think we're going to see a child die this season, which is pretty dark in any show, no matter what. But I think that might be one of the trigger points, and I thought she might have died then. But I'm happy she didn't. I think they might be teasing it because it'll be very rushed. One thing that Supergirl does do is sometimes not develop their villains very well. And if they just killed Ruby off in the first episode with us knowing her for like 3 lines, I think she spoke like 3 lines, we wouldn't really care too much about Ruby. Even though she is a kid, you do automatically feel a bit more attached to a kid, especially if they die. But they need to spend more time with that and develop the characters a bit more. So I'm happy that she didn't die in that first episode, because as I said, it would have been a bit too rushed. But speaking of Rain, after all those shenanigans at this the statue reveal with Bloodsport causing some chaos, we do see a ship underwater which most likely looks like Rain's. Now, they're going to go more in depth with Rain's backstory, how she ended up on Earth, how she grew up on Earth, obviously. But it's very interesting that her ship is like trapped in a rock underwater. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was Rain's ship. If I'm wrong, let me know, but I think that's what they were hinting at. Now, the nice moment I was talking about in regards to Alex and Maggie's wedding was when Alex actually asks John Jones to walk her down the aisle, because obviously we know Alex's father, it's going to be difficult to get him there. So I think that was a very nice moment, because one thing that Supergirl does very well, I did mention this on Twitter after I watched the episode, the family aspect. I think they do it better than any of the other shows. I think the only show that maybe competes with them is Legends of Tomorrow in regards to like a family unit. So Supergirl does it very well, and I thought this was a very nice moment, because I think it would be just weird if John was just a spectator at the wedding. I think he actually needed to be involved in the ceremony, and I think that's a really nice touch that they're going to do when they eventually do get to that wedding. Now, we obviously finish off the episode with a bit of a jump scare. Like, if you weren't expecting it, if you had your volume up, you might have got a bit scared here, but we have Rain having an Allura vision that turns into a bit of an Allura nightmare. So obviously Supergirl's mother, Allura, turns around. She's like a demon zombie, just weird ghost thing. I was like, what the hell is going on here? So I'm actually excited to see what they do with the Rain character. She is the most interesting thing about Supergirl this season, even though I am very excited to see what they do with Kara this season without Mon-El, and also what they do with Mon-El when he eventually comes back on the show, because that's not too much of a spoiler. He's obviously going to be coming back. So there's a couple of things that are very interesting going forward in this season, but Rain is definitely one of the high points of that. But overall, as I said at the beginning of the video, it was a very solid start to Supergirl Season 3. The family aspect is one of the things that the show does the best, and I think they really captured that in this episode. You have the good times and you have the hard times when you have those arguments between Kara and Alex, So they really did capture that in this episode, and they also did sort of just give us that little taste of Rain, like the good side of her, but also the path that Rain could possibly going down with when we see that Allura nightmare right at the end. So I'm very excited to see what they do in the next couple of episodes. I think we do have some sort of, I don't want to call them filler episodes, but just episodes to like lead us into the seasons, like just give us a, little bits of the main plot of the season while giving us like fully fledged filler episodes, if you want to call them that. So I'm excited to see what they do with this season, but do let me know in the comment section down below what you think of all of this. Did you like the episode? Did you not like it? Just let me know in the comments. Obviously, if you enjoyed the video, it'd be awesome if you could leave a like just to show your support for the video and the channel as a whole, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.